Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Elliott Wave technical analysis update. Today, we're going to be going over Bitcoin. Right off the bat, please make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more cryptocurrency technical analysis updates, not just for Bitcoin, but for altcoins as well. Right now, Bitcoin is continuously creating new all-time highs, and the big question in everyone's head is, should I buy or should I sell? Well, Michael Saylor's buying. Should you as well? Well, hopefully by the end of this video, we can find an answer. And so please make sure to watch this video thoroughly as I narrow down all of my personal views and scenarios. Remember, this is all for educational purposes and none of this is financial advice. So if we take a quick recap of where we stood, we were looking for the expansion phase to complete in the primary degree in the yellow, which we got. As you can see here, this is where we kind of stalled and terminated for a higher degree wave 3. We were then also expecting the next higher sub-minuet degree wave 4 in the green to also unfold before moving up for a fifth wave, most notably as a sideways correction as we observed a possible alternation or a deeper wave 1-2, and based on the alternation idea, we are expecting a sideways wave 4. So we want to keep that kind of guideline in mind, and right now we do have a few scenarios that could be giving us that sideline expectation to be met. So with that being said, again, this whole expansion phase is working for a larger degree wave 3 in the blue, in the minuet degree. So what this means is we should technically or theoretically be looking for, however this extends for this fifth wave in the green to complete or eventually complete very soon maybe, is that we are going to be expecting a larger wave forward in the books, meaning that we should be expecting a larger sell-off to happen before we go up for the last fifth wave to the upside, before we kind of reassess whether this bull market is going to be continuing or not. But for the time being, whatever scenario that you're looking at, we do have what could be this wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 completing very soon in the coming weeks or coming months. We are still taking this step by step, but we have been talking about this for quite some time. And my organization here is based on these series of 1-2s, or nested 1-2s is what I like to call it. And we are now within that expansion phase completion based on the higher degree 3-4s. And we are looking like we are now getting into that last phase of that larger degree, minuet degree rather, wave 4 and 3 to be completing here for a possible larger correction. Again, this is all based on theory. We have to take this step by step, but for the time being, everything has been playing out quite nicely. Now, we do have a lot of scenarios on how we can interpret where and how this wave 5 is going to be completing in the sub-minuet degree in the green, meaning that we have already completed, for most part, this primary degree was the expansion phase in itself. I would say most of the move has been completed. We're now just looking for how far it's going to be extending and how we can maximize our positions and also the opportunities for a possible short position. It is still risky as we are still in price discovery, but it is something to keep in consideration because we are now in the final phase based on just what we have for these series of 1-2s, looking like it's starting to conclude for a larger degree wave 3. So how do we achieve that? Like I've said, just like based on our pre-analysis here, we were expecting, and the overall narration for the move to the upside was to complete for this fifth wave here, as you can see around the $105,000 to the $114,000 levels. It's not really much of a percentage difference if you ask me, because really we are working in the thousands of dollars now instead of the hundreds of dollars, and that's just how it is when you work with compounding. So as you can see here, we are now looking for how this last leg is going to be playing before it looks like it's going to go for a larger move to the downside. Now, what gets tricky for wave 5s overall in just a general perspective within the Elliott Wave Theory is that you don't know how far these wave 5s can go. Really, you only have a few ways you can measure it. And, even these are very difficult to kind of measure based on just the expectation of how these bull markets play out, because expansion phases is within a very parabolic phase. It becomes less reliable when you use Fibonacci levels. So the only real way we can kind of measure it is based on how long this wave 1 is, and just based using on the Fibonacci trend extension, we are getting very close to the equality length for this wave 5 to equal the length of wave 1, which is around the $118,000. So technically this wave 3 can go up all the way up to this level here before we go for that larger pullback. So this is something to keep in mind. I think a lot of people aren't interested in buying Bitcoin at these levels. I think Michael Saylor, for example, is just kind of luring people in, thinking that, he's already been doing this strategy since $10,000. He's been buying all-time highs every single time, right? So that strategy doesn't really align with a lot of people's strategy, meaning that he is already taken into consideration for possible pullbacks, even if he's buying at all-time highs. So I wouldn't be too deeply invested into what your influencers or what Michael Saylor is talking about. I'll just keep him as more of a statue for how the DCA position strategy works. I think that's the best way to kind of approach it for Michael Saylor's strategy. However, as analysts, as short-term traders, as medium time frame and larger time frame, and people who are wanting to buy more Bitcoin, is that we also do have to expect pullbacks. And I think right now we do have one possibly in store for us, or at least a high probability for a possibility of a larger wave forward to happen, as we do have a very large 1-2 already being complete, and we want to kind of achieve that larger degree 3-4 in size and in time comparison to that 1-2. So right now, again, everything is working quite nicely. We've achieved a lot of alternation for the lower degree 3-4s and 1-2s, meaning that this 1-2 is now kind of achieved as a sideways 3-4 of a triangle possibility here as the first scenario. And then we have this 1-2 and 3-4 also observing some kind of alternation in mind as well. So the first scenario here is just thinking about how far this wave 5 is going to be going, as we do have the possibility or the observation of a wave 4 being possibly complete. Again, if we go back to our original analysis, this is exactly what we were expecting. We just didn't know what pattern was going to be playing out. We just kind of let the markets play out in its own way. But right now, excuse me, with the current technical analysis, we do have a possible triangle here being complete. So this is the first scenario. Now there is a lot more scenarios here, and that's just kind of the downside or downfall with these different scenarios. The Elliott Wave Theory presents us with many different scenarios, but I'm doing my best to kind of adhere to what we can kind of combine a lot with the guidelines and rules in mind, especially with the sidewise alternation in here. And we do have another observation of a possible flat being complete here. Now, this is something that I've shared earlier in my social media. If you're not following me on social media, I do give a lot of updates there as well. So please give me a follow there if you want more updates on a daily basis. On X at XForceGlobal, so give me a follow there as well if you want more updates. But for now, this Bitcoin sideways structure, only two ways we can kind of observe it is as a possible flat and also the possible triangle here. It just depends on what termination point you're interested in using and utilizing. And we do have two very, very good contenders of where this wave 4 can be terminated. And, overall, whatever you want in the micro time frames, we can debate whether the medium time frames has a better look or not. But both of them work. And again, both of them also have is drawdown. Now, the triangle, for example, doesn't have the best look. It is a running triangle where the B wave created a new price extreme, but we did achieve equilibrium. And now the downfall to this idea is that we didn't really retrace enough in terms of the actual retracement of the triangle in itself. We didn't hit the 23.6% Fibonacci level, which is the most common target, or at least the minimum common target for a wave 4. But again, like I said, in a parabolic state, nothing really makes sense, and we should kind of really take that with a grain of salt in terms of the depth correction. As long as we're kind of achieving the overall look, then I think that's enough to say, or at least assume, what kind of pattern is going to be playing out. So right now we are looking for the possibility of this wave 5 being complete. Now, if we do have the triangle being complete, it does have a better beginning structure for a possible impulse to the upside. But again, the flat idea is similar in that fashion, where it has a better look for a wave 4, as it uses this B wave as the B pocket expansion zone for a possible flat idea. Now, if we take the measurement of this B pocket zone, we did surpass the 138.2%, but it still does fulfill the possibility of a running flat being complete here, as we do have two extremes. We have one high extreme and then really one strong sell-off that we had for a wave C, and that gave us another good bounce here. Now, the downfall to this scenario specifically is if you zoom in, it's really difficult to count 5 waves off of the lows. The only real way I can count it is possibly going into a diagonal, a very obscure looking diagonal, meaning that we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be your wave 1. So this would be leading us into a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would be your wave 1 of the larger degree. And then this here would be your wave 2 correction. And then you would start your similar kind of with the triangle idea of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of an internal structure, wave 3. So that is how we're looking at those two structures. They're very similar. Just depends on how you, as an Elliott Wave analyst, or if you're new to the Elliott Wave theory, you just want to keep things simple. this idea is also very similar in terms of the targets, and I think that's the overall expectation we were just looking for. We were looking for a general expectation to the upside. It doesn't really matter what the top is. I think that's something that a lot of people are kind of obsessed with. As long as we have the overall general direction and overall area of target in terms of the ultimatum before a pullback to happen, then that is how you should be trading it, and taking risk management appropriately, and depending on your sizing and your position, that's how you should be approaching the markets. So again, both of these ideas, just depending on where you want your wave forward to be terminated, this is just the overall same expectation. We were looking for upside, as you can see from our previous analysis. As we completed this 3-4, we're looking for this fifth wave to the upside. So now, what is this wave 4 going to be achieving? That's something on the table, and that's why I'm expecting a possible larger pullback once we do reach these levels over here, around the $115,000, $120,000, and then we can come back and retest how this wave 4 is, and how far this wave 4 rather is going to go, and then we can see whether this is going to be going up for the last fifth wave or not. But again, we are finding some characteristics of a lot of sideways action here, a lot of overlaps, a lot of low volume, a lot of uncertainty within the markets, and that's just kind of how it is, as a lot of people are already positioned for Bitcoin, and a lot of people are already interested in altcoins. So the lack of liquidity, can we find anything out of that? And we do have one unlikely scenario here, which is the diagonal where the wave 4 has completed. But again, I don't like this idea specifically for the fact that we are also not able to find any real consistency within how this diagonal is being created. First of all, we don't have the wave 3 being complete. I don't like how this wave 2 has been created as a possible very sharp ABC, but it is there. But the most important thing is the RSI. Now, when you are in a RSI, usually you want to be looking for momentum divergences within the RSI, meaning that you want to be looking for higher lows being created, and that shows weakness within the momentum, right? But one of the biggest thing for the RSI when you're combining it with these waves is that usually you'll see peak RSI at these wave 3s. Now, as you can see, the peak RSI here within this whole range was only within this smaller degree, wave 3 of the primary degree here, right? So that gives us a little less probability that the higher degree is actually lower in the RSI, and especially that this current wave 1 is also higher than this wave 3. So this makes this idea, in my opinion, quite low in probability, but it is there if we do move correctively. The characteristic of overlapping is there. So we'll see. But again, even this idea still leads us to the upside. But again, we're also looking for a larger wave 3, 4 of a pullback. This should be labeled wave 4. So yeah, that's how we're looking at it, ladies and gentlemen. And there's no way to look at it, even within the most bullish perspective, unless it just goes ballistic, which is fine by me. And we can just kind of work upon that again. But a lot of these scenarios, even with the unlikely scenario, is that we're looking for a larger wave 4 pullback, as you can see. So that's that. Now, we do have one opportunity where, again, if we're still working in this 3-4 and we're not kind of satisfied with the idea that, okay, we do have kind of two obscure looking, pros and cons for a wave 4 termination of either triangle or flat, is that we could have an incomplete flat, meaning that we could be still working within this degree and we're not working in this wave 3 just yet, meaning that the internal structures have to just be arranged a little bit differently. Now, there's a pro to this idea, which means that we are able to separate the degrees a little bit better, meaning that if this wave 3 has terminated here at the top, again, it doesn't have that characteristic on the RSI, but it doesn't matter on this idea because it is a flat. We could be looking for an ABC, a 3-3-3 flat. Now, on the shorter time frames, this does look like a 3-wave more than anything else, even though it does look like a 5-wave move. But again, Elliott Wave Theory, it starts to become inconsistent on the micro time frames. But again, it is there as a 3-wave possibility. We do have another 3-wave here, 3-wave here, and another 3-wave here as well. So this here, whether the move turns impulsive or not, is going to be just how we're going to be intertwining these scenarios regardless. But again, we are now within a possible B pocket expanded zone, meaning that we are reaching the 123.6 and the 138.2% zone, which is the most common target for a wave B within a flat structure. So this could be ideally also still in the works, and we could still be technically working very sideways, and we could have one more extreme move to the downside. Again, the characteristic of a flat is that you have a price extreme for a wave B and also a price extreme for a wave C, depending on if you're seeing it as a running or an expanded flat. But in this case, with the expanded flat, we would expect this low to break, and then we would have one more low being created around the $90,000 to the $85,000 levels before moving up for that wave 3, and then another larger correction. So that also does fit into the characteristic of having, or at least a good look, in my opinion, to achieve the overall degrees of the higher degrees as well. So this is the incomplete flat idea. We could still get a rejection within these levels, and then there is another incomplete triangle which also utilizes this as well. So this is just kind of working a few steps ahead. Basically, it's the same exact patterns as the completed wave 4, but then if you're not seeing this as a completed wave 4, it's just literally applying the same idea, but in a different degree, basically. You're seeing this as a flat that's working out now instead of a flat that's already complete. So if we do an overlap of these two flats, as you can see, 3-4 is already complete as a flat here, as opposed to the incomplete flat, where if you're seeing this as a wave 3 termination point here, then this flat idea is also possibly in play. So these ideas are all just merely based on the theory alone. Now, you're probably interested in my personal take. My personal take is that although I do like this idea, but just due to the fact that we are working in a parabolic phase, we're still in a bull market, we're still in price discovery, I'd rather just rip the band-aid off and just say that we are now already working with the wave 5, and we should be working within some kind of 5-wave structure to the upside to complete off this wave 5, and then go for that larger wave 4, rip the band-aid off, kind of fake everyone out, call it a bull trap, call it a bear trap, whatever you want, and then take that opportunity. This is where the massive vol season is going to be. So that aligns with also the market psychology that a lot of people are also just interested in going into altcoins. They want more opportunities getting into altcoins. So that's why I think that this idea just fits a little bit better, and we're just kind of wrapping up the last phase. As you can see, the sentiment is not very interesting right now in social media, on X especially, that a lot of people don't really want to be buying Bitcoin at $100,000 plus, right? So it's quite expensive if you ask me. And right now, this would be a far better opportunity, and a move for this last fifth wave can present a 20 to 30% opportunity once again for Bitcoin, if that's something that you've missed during the expansion phase, as it will come back down to kind of the median and also into the zone where a lot of people might be scared to buy Bitcoin again. That is where the opportunities lie. And again, if you look at the crypto fear and greed index, it's been at extreme greed for quite some time, right? So that's also something to keep in mind, to just keep you at bay, to keep a neutral bias. And the Elliott Wave Theory, the observations that we're seeing here based on the wave degrees, I would say the observation is best observed as a possible 5-wave move that's being complete for the largest wave 1-2 that's now being complete here. So we're going to be observing the first alternation of the largest 3-4, which is going to be a sharp correction, as we have maybe self-fulfilling prophecy, I would say, but we do have a sharp correction here, a sideways correction here, a sharp correction here, a sideways correction here for the first 1-2s and 3-4s. So the last 3-4, we would expect a larger sell-off, and that also fits into the market psychology as well. A lot of people are just going to be naturally finding the tendency to take profits here, and it's just kind of a Mexican standoff between institutions and also the general market participants like you and me. We just want to see how an initial sell-off is going to be playing out. So that's how I'm seeing it, ladies and gentlemen. I would say the biggest opportunity is going to be coming a little bit later if you are long, and I would say we're getting pretty close for a possible shorting opportunity. When it comes to risk management, again, risk reward ratio, ladies and gentlemen, RRR. You're looking for risk reward ratios in terms of weighting between whether you should be longing or shorting. I think there is a more opportunistic approach when it comes to shorting, but I'm not saying to short. I'm just saying there's just a more risk reward ratio opportunity. And again, a lot of people are more interested in seeing the current move as not interested in buying Bitcoin. I think they're more interested in buying at lower levels, but who knows? It can just continue up. The markets can go mental, can go insane, and that is the beauty of how the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets work. But for now, as we're just applying the Elliott Wave Theory from a technical analysis perspective, I would expect a possible Wave 3 to complete very soon and a Wave 4 to pull back, depending on how this Wave 5 is going to be completing. So we do have a little bit of leeway for a possibility of completion. We do have a technical 5-wave possibly completing here that could be already complete, or we can just do one more move to the upside and then move down. We'll see. We'll definitely see. But again, both ideas of a flat and a triangle, to very simply put and summarize, is that we are going to be looking for this to complete very soon, both ultimate and targets. And then if you're looking for a more sideways corrective structure, if you're of a shorter time frame analysis or a trader, you are looking for either a flat to play out a little bit later, extend this wave 4 that we're currently in the sub-minute degree, or a possible more equilibrium state and let altcoins run a little bit more. So that's how we're looking at it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, my overall view is that we're going to rip the band-aid off pretty soon, go for this last kind of bull trap idea, and then go for that one last move to the downside. Now, wave 3-4 could be any corrective pattern. Doesn't have to follow the idea of alternation, but it is there for how it is, and it has respected it quite nicely even on the shorter expansion phase. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Please make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Also like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much. Our last video, I don't know what happened, it blew up, but yeah, thank you very much for everyone's support. I will be making sure to do more altcoin updates and possibly XRP. I don't know, we'll see. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.